The world was burning. Missiles flew over the Middle East. But far away, in a quiet room in Pyongyang, a man was watching. He said nothing at first, but his silence was not peace. It was the start of something darker. This is the true story of how North Korea reacted to the Iran-Israel war of 2025, and what it means for all of us. Chapter 1. A World in Flames. The world changed in just one night. Missiles flew over the Middle East. Bright flashes lit the skies of Tehran and Haifa. Explosions shook buildings. Sirens screamed. People ran. Children cried. The war between Iran and Israel had begun. TV channels across the globe interrupted their programs. Breaking news. Israeli jets strike Iranian nuclear facilities. Iran responds with missile attacks. Some called it a new regional war. Others feared it might become World War III. In the middle of this chaos, North Korea said nothing. Not at first, but in Pyongyang, behind closed doors, people were watching, not just citizens, generals, advisors, and the man at the center of power, Kim Jong-un. He sat in his office, eyes fixed on a large screen, footage of burning oil fields, crowds chanting in the streets of Tehran, emergency meetings at the UN. Kim didn't speak. Not yet. But he understood something. This war was an opportunity. For many years, North Korea had felt isolated. Sanctions, warnings, military pressure. But now, the world's attention was elsewhere. No one was looking at North Korea. They were too busy with the Middle East. And that silence, that space, was powerful. Kim knew this. In the state news agency, KCNA, editors waited. Would they publish a message? Would they remain silent? The answer came 2 days later. But before that, let's go back to the first hours of war. The Iranian government accused Israel of starting the conflict. They said Israel had crossed a red line by bombing military sites near Isfahan. Israel answered, "We acted to protect ourselves from a nuclear threat." The U.S. gave support to Israel. Russia warned both sides. China called for peace. And North Korea? Still watching, still silent. But inside their military headquarters, something was moving. A meeting of top commanders was held. Sources later said that North Korea had raised its military alert level, quietly. No rockets were fired. No speeches were made. But in the minds of North Korea's leaders, a question was growing. If Israel can strike first, why can't we? In a quiet neighborhood in Pyongyang, an old man listened to a radio. He heard the word Israel, then Iran, then missiles. He whispered to his grandson, "It's beginning again." "What is, grandfather?" "A storm, and storms bring change." By the end of the day, social media in South Korea exploded. People feared North Korea might use this moment to test a missile. Journalists asked questions. The Pentagon watched satellite images. Still, no action. Just waiting. And that waiting was louder than words. Because when North Korea waits, The world worries. In the final moments of the day, a single sentence appeared on North Korea's official TV. The supreme leader is studying the global situation carefully. No blame, no support, no smile. Just calculated silence. But the silence was only the beginning. What will North Korea say next? And what will they do when the world isn't watching? The answers start in Chapter 2. Chapter 2. The first words from Pyongyang. The silence was broken, at last. 3 days after the first missiles hit Iran, North Korea finally spoke. It was early morning in Pyongyang. Cold air moved across the city. Citizens walked to work, radios in their pockets. At exactly 7 a.m., the news began. A calm voice said, "The Democratic People's Republic of Korea strongly condemns the Zionist attack on the sovereign territory of the Islamic Republic of Iran." There it was. The first official statement. The anchor didn't raise her voice. She spoke slowly, clearly, with purpose. This act of war, she continued, was not only aggressive, it was criminal. The United States and its allies gave permission for this crime. The words hit like a drum. Criminal. Permission. Zionist. For North Korea, this was not just a comment. It was a signal. A message to the world. People in Seoul, Tokyo, and Washington listened closely. What did this mean? Was North Korea planning something? In Iran, the response came quickly. A government spokesperson said, "We welcome the support of our North Korean friends who understand the truth." It was the first public connection between Iran and North Korea since the war began. Some experts smiled. Others looked worried. Back in Pyongyang, the day continued. But the tone had changed. At schools, students heard lessons about imperialism and resistance. On TV, programs showed videos of bombed Iranian cities, images of crying families, destroyed hospitals. The narrator's voice said, "This is what the West brings: death, destruction, and lies." It was more than information. It was propaganda. And it worked. Inside the Workers' Party building, another meeting was held. Generals spoke softly. Advisors looked nervous. But Kim Jong-un raised his hand. "Let them know," he said. "We will not be silent. This is our moment to speak truth." That night, another message was broadcast. North Korea stands with the oppressed people of the world. No country has the right to strike first. Again, it was clear. This war, far from their borders, was now part of North Korea's global story. In Washington, U.S. analysts met in a closed room. They discussed the tone, the words, the meaning. One advisor said, "They're not just talking about Israel. They're talking about us." Another added, "It's about North Korea's own fear. They're warning the world, don't attack us, or this could be you." Across social media, the message spread. hashtags appeared. Solidarity, with Iran, Zionist crimes, Pyongyang speaks. Even in Arab countries, state media quoted North Korean TV. And just like that, a quiet, isolated country had entered the center of a global storm. But Kim was not finished. A letter was sent, secretly, to Tehran. Its content is still unknown, but intelligence sources say it included the words common enemy, shared pain, future cooperation. A promise, a warning, or both? North Korea had spoken, but was it just words? Or was this the beginning of something deeper, an alliance in the shadows? Find out in Chapter 3. Chapter 3. Echoes of Solidarity. The next day, a picture appeared on North Korean state TV. It showed Kim Jong-un standing in front of a large map. Beside him, generals. Behind him, flags. He looked serious. Then came the words. Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un expresses deep respect for the Iranian people and their brave resistance. The message was clear. North Korea was choosing a side. In Tehran, the message was welcomed. A military official replied, "We thank the people and leadership of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea for standing with justice." On social media, some Iranians began sharing North Korean speeches. Some called Kim a friend in dark times. But others were confused. Why is North Korea supporting us now? What do they want? Questions were rising, and North Korea kept answering. For the first time in years, KCNA, the official news agency, published daily statements about a foreign war. One article said, "Iran is the victim of Western aggression. The Democratic People's Republic of Korea understands this pain. We lived through the same suffering." Another read, "When bombs fall from U.S.-made jets, it is not peace, it is control. Only those who resist can protect their freedom." These were not just headlines. They were lessons. North Korea was turning the Iran-Israel war into a story of shared struggle. But behind the words was strategy. Analysts say this was no accident. "Kim is building emotional bridges," said a South Korean professor. "He is telling the world Iran and North Korea are brothers in resistance." But why? Was it politics? Was it fear? Was it about power? Inside Pyongyang, people were listening. In factories, radios played speeches. In schools, students repeated phrases like, "Imperialism destroys. Resistance brings peace." In truth, many North Koreans had never heard of Israel or Iran. But now, they were told, this war is our war too, because injustice anywhere is a danger everywhere. In the outside world, reactions came fast. In Russia, officials remained silent, but local media said, North Korea's view reflects deep anger in the East. In China, government papers avoided taking sides. But a small article in a military journal said, "Allies of the West must understand. Every action has a reaction." In South Korea, news anchors asked, "Is North Korea preparing something more than words?" And Kim? He sent another message, this time not public. Sources say it was a private letter to Hezbollah in Lebanon, praising their watchful defense. If true, North Korea was not just making noise. It was forming connections, quietly, carefully. The world listened. But one question remained. Will this end with statements and speeches, or is something bigger coming? Words have power, but what happens when those words become actions? In the next chapter, we explore how this war shaped North Korea's view of nuclear weapons. Stay with us. For Chapter 4. Chapter 4. Lessons in Nukes. The bombs in Iran, the strikes in Israel. They were loud, but the real sound was quieter. It was the sound of leaders thinking, planning, rewriting the rules. And in North Korea, that thinking went deep. Inside a secret bunker in Pyongyang, Kim Jong-un met his top scientists, men in white coats, generals with medals. On the wall, a giant screen. It showed video of the Israeli airstrike, then images of Iranian missiles flying back. Kim looked at the scientists and said, "You see, this is why we have nuclear weapons." Silence filled the room. For many years, the world told North Korea to stop. Stop testing. Stop building. Stop threatening. But now, Kim saw proof. No one attacks a country with nuclear power. Iran didn't have a working bomb. Israel did. And that made all the difference. A new message was published by North Korean state media. Only nuclear power guarantees true peace. When small nations hold the bomb, big nations hesitate. These words weren't just for the world. They were for the North Korean people. And for Kim's enemies. In South Korea, leaders grew nervous. One military advisor said, "Kim will now feel stronger than ever. He will believe that his nuclear program is not just protection, it's power." And in the U.S., some experts warned, "The Iran-Israel war is teaching all the wrong lessons to all the wrong people." Back in Pyongyang, children in school drew pictures. Some drew missiles. Some drew maps of America with red circles. They were told, "This is how we stay safe. This is how we stay free." In truth, many didn't understand, but the message was clear. Power comes from fear, and fear comes from the bomb. A surprising statement came from a North Korean diplomat. If Iran had a nuclear bomb, this war would never have started. Peace comes only when your enemies are afraid to strike. It shocked many in the West, but in Pyongyang, it made perfect sense. Kim ordered a new round of missile tests. Not now. Not tomorrow, but soon. Let them watch us, he said. Let them worry. That is our strength. Meanwhile, in secret labs, scientists worked faster, testing engines, calculating range. Their goal? A new missile, longer, faster, deadlier. The world is too dangerous, one general said. We cannot trust words. We trust power. And so, as the war raged in the Middle East, a different kind of battle was growing in North Korea, not with guns, but with silence, buttons, and codes. Because for Kim, the lesson was clear. If you don't want to be attacked, you must be untouchable. Can nuclear weapons really bring peace? Or are they just another path to war? In Chapter 5, we follow rumors of secret deals between Pyongyang and Tehran. Stay tuned. Chapter 5. Shadow ships and secret deals. The world was focused on fire and missiles, but far from the headlines. Another war was moving, in silence. In the dark waters of the Arabian Sea, a ship changed its name, not once, but 3 times. First, it was called the Moonlight, then Tianjin Pearl. Finally, Rosa Star. Its flag? Unknown. Its destination? Hidden. Its cargo? Weapons. Intelligence reports from Europe said, a shipment of small arms, anti-tank rockets, and drones left North Korea, heading toward Yemen. Why Yemen? Because the Houthis, an Iranian-backed group, were now fighting on Iran's side, and North Korea was watching closely. Experts began to whisper, is Pyongyang helping Iran? Are they sending weapons, like in the old days? Some said yes. They pointed to documents, satellite photos, cargo leaving the port of Nampo, west of Pyongyang, boxes marked with numbers, no country name, no flag, just movement. In Tehran, a military official smiled on live TV. He said, true friends do not always speak, but they act in the shadows. Many believed he was talking about North Korea. Back in Pyongyang, reporters stayed silent. State media said nothing about weapons. Instead, they showed stories of economic cooperation with the Middle East, food, medicine, technology. But in reality, what was being exchanged was far more dangerous. Cyber experts found more clues. Suddenly, Iranian radar systems began working faster, more accurate, more secure. One analyst said, this looks like North Korean software. We've seen it before. If true, then Pyongyang wasn't just sending guns. It was sending code. The U.S. Department of Defense published a short report. Inside was a chilling line. There is increasing evidence of weapons transfers between DPRK and pro-Iranian forces in the region. But the proof? Still secret. In South Korea, this raised alarms. Officials feared the war in the Middle East could now touch Asia. One official warned, if North Korea is testing weapons on other fronts, they are preparing for something bigger at home. Meanwhile, in Beirut, a ship arrived quietly at night. No lights, no name, unloaded by hand. Inside, boxes of ammunition, same type as used in North Korea. And yet, no one claimed responsibility. Journalists tried to follow the trail. They were blocked. But one brave reporter sent this message before disappearing. They are trading in shadows, and the world prefers not to see. In secret meetings, Iran and North Korea exchanged more than just tools. They shared strategies, how to resist sanctions, how to hide weapons, how to survive. This was no longer a political friendship. It was a war partnership. When countries move in the shadows, how can the world stop them? And who benefits most when no one is watching? In Chapter 6, we enter the world of diplomacy between Pyongyang, Moscow, and Beijing. Don't miss it. Chapter 6. Diplomacy in Beijing and Moscow. While missiles fell in the Middle East and weapons moved across secret waters, another battle was happening, in quiet rooms. This battle had no guns, no smoke, no shouting. It was the battle of diplomacy. In Beijing, Chinese officials met behind closed doors. No cameras, no reporters, only silence and strategy. One advisor asked, "Why is North Korea speaking so loudly about the Iran-Israel war? What are they planning next?" Another replied, "Maybe they are testing us." China had always supported North Korea, but carefully, quietly. Now, Pyongyang was becoming louder, stronger, more involved in global conflicts, and China didn't like surprises. At the same time, in Moscow, Russian leaders met with North Korean diplomats. Photos were taken. Smiles were shared, but the words spoken in private were serious. A leaked report later said, Russia asked North Korea to slow down public statements. They fear more chaos in the region. Why? Because Russia was already involved in Ukraine. They didn't want another crisis to manage. But Kim Jong-un had his own plans. He sent messages to both capitals. To Beijing, "We are acting in defense of oppressed nations. We expect respect, not warnings." To Moscow, "You fight your war. Let us speak in ours." It was bold, even dangerous. In response, China reduced some trade activity, silently. Goods moved slower. Fewer trains arrived in North Korea. No official reason was given, but everyone knew. It was a message. Careful, Kim. Don't go too far. Russia chose a different way. They offered something small. Military advice. A Russian official said, "North Korea has the right to speak, but must understand when to speak and when to act." Kim listened, but he did not stop. Instead, he ordered more broadcasts, more statements, more support for Iran, more fire in his voice. One Chinese diplomat whispered to a journalist, "Pyongyang is playing a dangerous game. But maybe they know exactly what they are doing. The world's map was changing. North Korea was no longer just a small, closed country. It was now a player in global talks, not because of wealth, not because of peace, but because of boldness. In a small meeting in Geneva, a European official said, "North Korea is no longer silent. They're shaping events far beyond their borders." A reporter asked, "And China? Will they stop them?" The answer: they will try. But Kim doesn't wait for permission anymore. When friends become nervous and allies grow cold, can North Korea still hold its position? In Chapter 7, we move to Seoul, where fear grows louder by the day. Stay with us. Chapter 7, South Korea's Alarm. The war was far away, but in Seoul, the fear felt close. South Koreans turned on their TVs every night, not for drama, not for sports, but for one question. What will North Korea do next? In government buildings, alarms were tested, underground shelters cleaned, military phones rang without pause. The war in the Middle East had opened another front, a front of anxiety in the South. On the news, a reporter asked, "Could Kim Jong-un use this moment to make his move?" A retired general replied, "When the world looks away, North Korea looks ahead." The South Korean army raised its alert level. Jets flew closer to the border. Soldiers trained longer. One young officer said, "We are not just watching the Middle East, we're watching Pyongyang." But fear did not stay in the military. In the streets of Seoul, parents spoke in whispers. Teachers changed class topics. "Stay prepared," one school official told her students. "Just in case." Even young children began asking, "Will there be war here too?" At the Blue House, South Korea's presidential office, leaders held late-night meetings. Satellite images showed unusual movements near the DMZ, a train heading north with military equipment, a strange increase in radio signals. What did it mean? No one knew for sure. But the timing was dangerous. Then came the broadcast. North Korean TV showed a dramatic video. Flames. Maps. A missile launching. A deep voice declared, "Our enemies must understand we are always ready. War in one place is a warning in all places." It wasn't just a message to Israel or the U.S. It was also for South Korea, a message filled with fire. The next day, a South Korean intelligence report leaked. It said, "There is a high probability that North Korea will use this moment to provoke tensions, either with a missile test or cyber attack." That word, provoke, was on every screen. In homes, families prepared go bags, water, food, flashlights, just in case. Older people remembered 2010, when an island was shelled. "We've seen this before," one man said, "but it feels different now." On social media, young people joked. But the fear was real. Memes of Kim riding a missile, followed by hashtags. Stay safe. Not again. Eyes on the north. Laughter. Hiding fear. In the South, hope still lived, but it was getting harder to hold. Fear spreads fast when the past isn't far away. But in today's war, it's not just bombs that matter. In Chapter 8, we dive into North Korea's new weapon, cyber power and propaganda. Are you ready? Chapter 8, Cyber Signals and Propaganda. It began without sound. No rockets, no planes, no fire, just screens. In the middle of the Iran-Israel war, something strange happened online. Hospitals in Tel Aviv lost power. For 5 minutes, traffic lights in Haifa blinked out of control. Even news websites went dark. At first, it looked like a glitch. But then, experts found the truth. It was a cyber attack. The world searched for answers. Iran? Russia? But one name appeared in secret reports. North Korea. Yes. Pyongyang was silent. No public threats. No loud moves. But in the shadows of the internet, their fingers were moving. Cyber teams in Unit 180, a secret North Korean group, had been watching the war carefully. They studied every move, every weakness. Then they acted. In Iran, one military system suddenly improved. Faster response, stronger firewalls. A U.S. analyst said, "It's as if someone gave them the code, and we think that someone is North Korea." At the same time, strange news began spreading online. Stories appeared on Arabic and Asian websites. Israel plans to use chemical weapons. The U.S. will soon invade Iran. North Korea will send troops to help. All fake, all carefully written, and all traced back to Pyongyang's digital army. This was no mistake. This was information warfare. North Korea was not just helping Iran with weapons. They were helping with words, changing the story, controlling the emotion, turning fear into anger against the West. On North Korean TV, the message was loud. Western lies must be destroyed. Only truth can bring peace. Then came a short video, dramatic music, war footage, and Kim Jong-un's voice. In war, there are many weapons. Some fly, some fire, but the most powerful enters the mind. In Seoul, cyber experts raised alarms. "This is bigger than hacking," one said. "It's a digital war of hearts and minds." Young people in North Korea were also part of it. In schools, they learned how to write truthful messages for foreign websites. They were told, "The world believes lies. It's your duty to tell them what's real." But was it truth? Or just another kind of propaganda? In Europe, a report warned, North Korea is testing its cyber skills on a live battlefield. And it's working. But this battle wasn't over. Because every cyber attack brings a question. If they can do this now, what will they do next? The battlefield has moved from bombs to bites, and now, North Korea is ready for its biggest step yet. In the final chapter, we face the truth. A darker alliance is rising. What does it mean for the world? Join us in Chapter 9. Chapter 9. A Darker Alliance. The war in the Middle East continued. Explosions, sanctions, speeches. But behind all that noise, something darker was forming. An alliance. Not written in paper, not shown in pictures, but real. North Korea was no longer just watching, no longer just speaking. They were choosing sides. In a speech broadcast on Pyongyang's national TV, Kim Jong-un stood alone. No crowd, no flags, just his voice. In this world, justice must stand together. The oppressed must unite. North Korea will not be silent. We stand with Iran. We stand with those who resist. It was the clearest signal yet. This was not just support. This was alignment, a bond between Tehran and Pyongyang, built not on peace, but on common enemies. In Western capitals, the message hit hard. The U.S. Secretary of Defense warned, if North Korea continues aiding Iran and its partners, it will face severe consequences. Europe held emergency meetings. Sanctions were discussed. More pressure was planned. But Kim didn't blink. Instead, he made a call. To Iran. What was said remains secret. But 3 days later, new images appeared. Missile parts in Yemen, marked with codes linked to North Korean factories. The message was simple. We're in this together. In the streets of Tehran, posters were hung. One showed the faces of two leaders, Kim Jong-un and Iran's supreme leader. The words beneath said, different lands, same mission. But what was that mission? For some, it was resistance. For others, revenge. For many, just survival. In Seoul, fear turned into planning. Military drills increased. Missile defenses were tested. One South Korean general said, "This is no longer just about Israel or Iran. This is about alliances that may one day reach our door." In Washington, a senator asked, "What happens if Iran falls? Will North Korea rise stronger? And what happens if both survive and grow closer?" The answers were unclear, but one thing was not. The world had changed. A final headline from North Korea read, "Enemies grow louder, but so does our strength, and we are not alone anymore." So now, the question is yours. Has the world entered a new age of dangerous friendships? Or is this just another chapter in a long story of power and survival? Only time will tell. Thank you for listening to this true story, told in simple English. We hope it helped you learn.